Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
That's our new theme song.
Every time.
You have to do that every single time.
No way.
Yes, all the way. Leave us a comment in the comment below letting us know that Ryan has to sing that every single time now. Okay. Now that you've left that comment, we're halfway. Right?
That's right. Well, we're actually halfway. More than halfway after this list.
We
have done 5 of our...
Right now, at this moment, we're halfway.
At this moment, we have recorded our 5 of our installments of our top 100 games of all time. This is our 6th installment, and we're going through numbers 50 through 41. All right, so I will let you go first, talking about your number 50 favorite game.
And I will let you go first and subscribe to us before I talk about my number 50 game. Okay, my number 50 is Boone Lake. This is a huge game where you're moving along this path that's going to determine the actions you take, and you have a ton of cards in your hands. And let me just tell you, this is one of those games where you cannot be married to the cards in your hand. You are using these and flying through these like they're candy in and out of your hand using all this stuff. This is one of those games that you're sitting there and playing it for 3 hours and it feels like 20 minutes went by. So much fun.
My number 50 is Horrified. This is at this point, I would say, bordering on classic cooperative game in that kind of that Universal Monsters setting. You have 6 different monsters, and you play with 2, 3, or 4 of them at the same time based on how hard you want it to be. The thing is, each one of them has their own separate win conditions or ways to defeat them. And it's not always about combat either. Some of them you need to just wrestle them down and take them out. But other ones you want to frame them for murder, or maybe you want to get them to fall in love if you're playing with Frankenstein and his bride. So there's all these different win conditions for each one of these monsters. This has spun off several versions of itself. There's the fan-made version called Terrified, which uses like the slasher movie characters. But then, because they're like, okay, why not make more of this awesome system? There was the American cryptid monsters. Yeah. Then there was the Greek monsters. And then there was the World of Monsters that uses like the big Cthulhu theme. So this is kind of a placeholder for all of the Horrifieds. But I really like even just the classic Horrified. It's fantastic.
All right, my number 49 is Cartographers. This is a flip and write game. So you're flipping a card over that has a shape, and you're taking that shape and the what's the word?
Terrain?
Terrain, thank you. And you're putting it on your board. Certain things are going to score in different rounds, but you know what's coming up and you know what's going to score in the different rounds. What's really fun is in this game, eventually, like some bad guys are going to come and you put your boards around and somebody gets to draw these bad guys on your board and you have to put your board back and you're like, But this is just, this is such a classic. We've been able to play some of the expansions to it as well, which I think really are beneficial and makes the game, like the game's already fun and the expansions just make it more fun. So if this is a game that you really like, I would definitely seek some of those expansions out because they're delightful.
All right, so keeping with that theme, my number 49 is Century Spice Road. This game has also had a variety of expansions and spin-offs and things that come from it. But at its core, what it is a resource game where you are taking these spices and you are using these cards to either upgrade them or trade them and trade them trade them into other things in order to fulfill these orders. It's just one of the simplest, most distilled versions of that kind of resource management order fulfillment game that I've ever played. And because of that, it's the one I go back to all the time. It's an Emerson Matsuchi game, and it is perfect. It is lovely.
Perfect. It's a perfect game. My number 48 is Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. There are so many individual like dinosaur cutouts in this game. It is ridiculous. There's the generic dinosaurs that everybody can get, but you can get all these special dinosaurs and put them on your player board, and there's like individual cutouts. There's only one of that dinosaur in the entire game, and you put them on your board, and it's so cute and adorable. But you're basically ranchers, but instead of cows, you have dinosaurs that you're the rancher of, and you're trying to get certain things and block them off because you can't have the omnivores with the carnivores because you know what's going to happen if that goes down. The carnivore is going to eat the omnivore.
Herbivores?
Herbivores. That's the one I was trying to say. That is what's going to happen. But this is such a cute little game. We often take it with us when we go on our coffee dates. This is one of our go-to games, and I love it.
My number 48, this is Campaign Trail. This is a game that is a big simulation of the Electoral College of the United States when you elect a president. Basically, you can do it with either 3 teams, or you can do it. It's more fun if you do it with 6 teams, six people on 3 teams each. You have a president candidate and a vice presidential candidate, and you're going out there and you're hitting the campaign trail. You are fundraising and you are trying to get votes, and you're trying to get this area control thing where you're getting different voters that you're attracting to that state and winning them over to your side. You can even do like dirty smear campaigns against your opponents, but some states don't like that. They think that you are a nasty person if you do that. So I think that it's a really great educational tool as far as how the Electoral College works. And it's despite being about politics, it is itself apolitical. I've tried to introduce this to some people, and they were very concerned about bringing up certain topics, right? Yeah. And so that's a valid concern when you're bringing up in this day and age. People are so varied, and you don't want to upset people by playing a game. Games are the place to not be upsetting people, in my opinion. But this game does such a good job of abstracting all of the issues that get brought up, because it just says, hey, housing, the issue of housing. The people liked what you said, or they didn't like what you said. They didn't say...
But what you said wasn't even mentioned. It wasn't not even in the game.
Completely apolitical. So just more about the political system, much more than it is about the political issues.
Yeah.
So it's a great game. It's a long one, but if you can get a full night, 6 people... Oh my gosh, the role playing that comes out of it and stuff, it's just so much fun. I never played this and not loved it. Great game.
My number 47 is Sherlock Solitaire, and this is a game where they've taken the Klondike system and put it into another game. You know how we have a bunch of trick-taking games? We have so many of them now. This is taking Solitaire and gamifying it even more, and I felt like they did a great job. This game does play 1 to 2 player, but like it's solitaire, so you can easily play this 1 player because it's only 1 to 2, and you get a full game out of it. I really like this. I've taken it to work. It fits in my bag. It's just a very nice game. If you want to go just a step above simple card game, grab Sherlock Solitaire.
My number 47, this is Fuse Countdown. Fuse is a real-time cooperative dice rolling game where you're just furiously rolling dice as fast as possible, trying to fulfill these various objectives. Maybe in this particular card you need a 4 and you need a yellow. Maybe in this particular card you need 3 yellows, but one of them has to be a 2, or whatever the case is. And sometimes you have to have a little dexterity stacking mechanism going on as well. So Fuse Countdown is a standalone expansion to Fuse. You can add it into your base game of Fuse, or you can play it by itself. I actually think it's a better game by itself than Fuse is, even though I really like Fuse also. Yeah. This adds some new things like some player powers where everyone has asynchronous special abilities that they can use to help the team out. I love Fuse Countdown. It is one of my go-to real-time cooperative games for just chaos and just nonstop excitement.
Yeah. My number 46 is Animal Chemist, and this is a game...
And an Alchemist.
Uh-huh. Yes. Every time we talk about this game, every time we have this conversation.
I'm right every time, too.
And we have this... That's not true, because every other time in the past, I said Animal Alchemist. Animal Alchemist.
So you don't even know.
No, I always say that, and you always say Animal Chemist, and I was afraid I was going to say it wrong, so I decided to break it off into 2 different things so I could say it right, and now we're still having this discussion.
Even if I changed, I'm probably still right.
No, that's not how that works. Not how that works. Everybody let Ryan know in the comments below that I'm right. It doesn't even matter what the argument is. Just let him know that I'm right, and I can pull this up whenever we have a disagreement. So anyway, in this
Here it is. The internet said I was right, so whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay, so in this game, this is also another one that we actually bring a lot with us when we go on coffee dates. It's one of those Splendor-ish type games where you have that base thing that you're trying to collect to blend them, to make a bigger thing, to blend them even more, to make the big potion that you're trying to make as you're playing this game, and you're gathering those resources in order to do this. It is kind of mathed out. There's only so many things that can happen in the game, but I really like it. It's super streamlined, and it's a really easy game to get to the table.
All right, my number 46 is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This is a full cooperative game where you are in the world of Star Wars, specifically in the Clone Wars era, as the name suggests. I don't even know why I had to explain all that. But basically, it uses the kind of a version of the pandemic system to try to get a set collection thing going, to fulfill these various missions on these various planets, to have your faction win the Clone Wars. But you have all these bad guys like Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress, General Grievous, all roaming the board trying to mess things up as well. Instead of diseases getting dropped in pandemic, you have these little battle droids getting dropped all over the board that you have to defeat as well. So it introduces a dice mechanism. So even though everything in this game is different than pandemic, you can also see how it's related to pandemic in a weird way.
You can see the DNA there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I love this twist on the pandemic system, and I love the Star Wars IP, so this is a perfect mix for me.
My number 45 is Tranquility, and this is a cooperative game where you are taking turns in this board, laying cards on this of this empty grid, and you have to lay them in order from lowest all the way to the highest at the bottom. So the first time you place a few cards, it is pretty simple. You're just placing the cards, but every time you place a card next to a card, you have to discard the amount of cards that's in between that number. So if I have an 8 and I lay a 10, I have to discard for that 9. And cards are your life in this game. So as soon as you're out of cards, you lose the game. So it gets a lot trickier as the game continues. I have also played the solo version of this, and I really did like that. You can add things in the game to make it more difficult for you. I don't think you need to do that. This game is challenging in and of itself. You don't have to make it more difficult. It already is difficult, but I like difficult blah, blah, blah.
Difficult cooperative games.
Thank you. I enjoy that. When we play cooperative games, we like kind of like a 40 to 60 win-lose rate. This is kind of more like a 20-80, but that's okay. That does not bother me, losing numbers all the time.
My number 45, this is Scholars of the South Tigris. This is one of the heaviest games in my entire top 100. It's very involved, very complicated, but at the same time, everything kind of connects into each other in a way that makes sense, and I really appreciate that. You are using this interesting dice mechanism where you have kind of the colorless dice, but then you can add meeples to them to make the dice change colors. And then you can mix dice colors together to get higher and more rare dice. You want to do that in order to activate these various guilds. And ultimately, what the theme of the game is you are trying to translate all these different scrolls. But we, as the players, we all speak Arabic. This is kind of during the great Islamic Revolution and the Golden Age of Islam. And so we all speak Arabic, but if a scroll is in Hebrew, well, then how are you going to be able to translate it? So you need to hire a series of translators. Maybe one takes it from Hebrew to Greek, Greek to Persian, Persian to Arabic, or whatever the case is. So you have to kind of do this thing where you have to translate things all over the place in order to get it back to Arabic so that you can score it. And then you have these cool income phases where you can use all these different tracks and to trigger all these different abilities. Because it's very involved, but all connected in a fun way.
Yeah, I have to mention on that game, people talk about themes all the time and how they want unique and interesting themes. And I feel like this really hits that. It is such an interesting theme of translating text. I just think that's really cool, and I just wanted to mention that. Okay, my number 44 is Spookies, and this is a push your luck game. You are trying to get the most amount of points by going up this grid in this haunted house. When you successfully go up a grid, depending on how many dice you use to do that, determines how many of these spookies that you get, but you don't reveal the number on them until the end of the game. It is a push your luck because the higher up you go on the grid, the harder it is to get up. So you have to have, more than 6 pips. You have to have more than 7, 8, 9, etc. This is such a hilarious game. We've been playing this for years with our daughters, and I don't think we've ever played a game where there's not laughing happening, where there's not just at least one person at least once trying to just go for it and either completely whiffing and it's hilarious, or making it all the way and it's also epic. So regardless of what happens in this game, whether you totally poop out and lose everything, or you make it all the way to the top, you're just like, that was so much fun.
My number 44 is Wandering Towers. This is one of those games that plays up to 6 players, but it feels like the mechanisms are board gamey kind of mechanisms, but the atmosphere of it is very much of a party. You
Yes.
are laughing continually. So it's a game you can play with a family, stuff like that. What's happening is you have these towers, and you have these wizards that are kind of roaming around. And there's one tower that specifically you're trying to get inside of. So you're roaming around the board trying to get your wizards in this tower. But the towers, all of them, also are going to be moving. So you're going to be picking up these towers and stacking them on top of other towers, and maybe with people inside of them, and you're covering up these people. And so then other people are going to forget where their meeples are, because they have to remember, okay, someone covered it up, but where is it? Then you have to spend half the game trying to figure out where your meeples are, trying to move things around, uncover your own meeples, cover up other people's meeples, get them into the final destination. But even that's going to be moving around the board as well. It is absolute chaos, and it is a total blast. Wandering Towers.
My number 43 is Clink, a deck building adventure, and this is a dungeon crawl / deck building game. You are trying to go down in this dungeon and collect as many treasures as you can and make it up. You're doing all of this through deck building and the mechanisms that you get in your deck. However, the entire time that this is happening, there is a dragon roaming around, and every time you're moving, you're producing noise, aka clink. And so whenever that happens, the dragon moves around. If you ever produce too much clink, then dragon gotcha. You didn't make it up. You're not victorious. This is one of those games that I think I am always in the mood for. I will almost always play this game if it is suggested, if it is brought up. It's also one of those games, I feel like this is just how I play. Like, I really don't win this game. It just doesn't happen. But I like the adventure of going in and getting something. My whole thing with games, I'm just going to let you know this in this video, in case you didn't already know, is I don't really care if I win and lose as long as I'm able to accomplish something. So I have a goal. This is what I wanted to do. And if I'm able to do that, then I feel like I've had a good time at that game because I was able to accomplish a goal. That happens all the time in this game, and I lose all the time, but I'm still able to accomplish that goal. Clink, a deck building adventure.
My number 43, this is Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island. This is a pretty heavy cooperative game. Man, I feel like a lot of my games today were cooperative. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's going to be one more later that's kind of cooperative. Bethany talked about like a bunch of cooperative games. We just like cooperative games.
I guess we do. What did I talk about?
You talked about Tranquility.
Oh, you're right. I did. I did talk about a cooperative game.
And you're going to talk about more later.
Oh, Sherlock Solitaire, I guess, is a...
It's cooperative too. Yeah. So what's going on in Robinson Crusoe is you're following the story of Robinson Crusoe. You're stranded on this island, and you're having to make do, trying to figure things out and survive. There's a bunch of different scenarios, and each one has its own different win conditions and challenges too. At its core, though, you're exploring the island. You're trying to gather resources. The main starting mission is you have to build a big signal fire. You're building this big old fire, trying to use it to signal passing by ships so you can escape. But the wood that you need to build these fires is also really hard to get, and you need it for other things too. So you have these storms coming in, right? These storms are constantly battering down your own little hut that you've been, I guess it's a hut, yeah. Your shelter.
Shelter, yeah.
Yeah, your shelter that you've built up. And then you have these animals, these predators that are also trying to get to you, and you have to go use these to make, craft different weapons and use it to build up your shelter again. So the wood is hard to get, and you have to use it for everything, while simultaneously slowly building up this bonfire so that way you can survive and win the game. But again, that's just one of the many scenarios. But they all have the same idea of crafting different items and weapons, exploring the map, and figuring out what challenges you're going to have to overtake. One really nice aspect is things that come up at the beginning of the game might come back later in the game. So there might be a card that says, here's this weird-looking fruit. If you eat it, you won't have to feed yourself this round. That sounds really good. Let's go ahead and do that. Then you have, put it in the bottom of the deck, and then it'll come up later. And then it's like, you come up later, and you're like, oh, it was poisonous, and now you lose some health. or whatever the case is. So yeah. I like having these ideas of things that are going to come back to you later for good or bad.
All right, my number 42 is Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Season 2 was really interesting because you don't realize what had happened until about midway through the game.
There's a big plot twist.
Yeah, there's a big plot twist. There's kind of a plot twist in all of these, but this one is like... And they did a really good job with the artwork of you not realizing what was happening until halfway through this game. But in this game, you are exploring and you're adding pieces to the game as you're exploring it. So that was really fun. It continues the story that started in season 1 and it continues it into season 2, so it's actually in the future. It takes place, do you remember how far in the future? Like
70 years.
Yeah, 70 years in the future.
The exploration part of it.
Yeah, and you're exploring it. It's just really, really fun. They do such a great job with these. We were just talking the other day about, I don't know how you play test things like this. Like, how do you do it to make it so where when people play this game, you know they're going to do these things, so these things get revealed this way. It's incredible, and you guys are geniuses. But that is my number 42. Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
My number 42 is Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game. This is kind of a cooperative game, but it has a potential traitor mechanism. So you basically shuffle this deck up, and there's a chance that one of the people will be revealed as a traitor. But either way, you don't know until the end of the game. But everyone also has their own kind of selfish goals. So everyone looks suspicious the whole time. Maybe it says you need to hoard a bunch of food, or maybe you need to hoard a bunch of weapons. And it's like, oh, that's exactly the same thing that a traitor would do. Interesting. And then the traitor has various, if there is a traitor, they have various things they need to do as well. On its own, as a cooperative game, it's challenging enough. Hordes and hordes and hordes of zombies are showing up. And again, maybe it's something else for this particular section of top 10s, but there's just a bunch of scenarios that you can play with, and each one has its own win conditions. Maybe you just have to have a super long game and last until the end, or maybe you have to kill X amount of zombies, or maybe you have to find X amount of things, or maybe you have to, whatever the case is, each scenario is a little different. There's these crossroads cards where you draw this card, and on someone else's turn, and you wait until maybe it might trigger it. So maybe it says, like, if you go someplace or do something, you read the card, and then that card, if it triggers, it's going to be some crazy choice.
Yeah. Or a character, if a character had done something specific. Yeah.
So then you have to, you're given a choice. Do you want to do this thing over here that's going to give you some really awesome benefit, but also some really crazy, negative effect? Or do you want to ignore it? Or do you want to have some, there's lots and lots of narrative and storytelling kind of given in this. At the same time, you don't have to, think about the storytelling. It does it all for you, which is really nice. Yeah. This is a tough cooperative game with a traitor possibility. I really like Dead of Winter. That kind of horror winter time is perfect.
All right, my number 41 and the last for me of this section is Architects of the West Kingdom. One of the things that I really liked about this game is how seamless the turns were. It just happens. So you're placing your pieces and taking those actions, and it just kind of happens indefinitely until the game's over. And I just thought that was really clever the first time that I played that. And when I continued to play through it, I just think that is really amazing how they're able to do that. And then you're trying to build this church.
Cathedral thing? Yeah.
Yes, you're trying to build that, and you're going to all these different places, and how many places you have there, is how strong everything's going to be, but then people are going to make sure you can't do that anymore. I just really like this game. I should probably read some, player guides on this game so I can play it better, but it doesn't matter. Even though I play it horribly, I still really enjoy it.
All right, last one for me. This is Captain Sonar, my number 41.
This is the cooperative list for you.
It's a team game, but it's basically it's best played with 4-on-4.
Yeah.
So you're cooperating with your own team of 4 players, but this is in the theme of a submarine hunt. You have 2 different submarines that are facing each other in the ocean. Each person sitting is across from each other has the same role on their own boat. Their own sub. You have one person who's the captain calling out orders. You have one person who's in charge of the weapons. One person's in charge of trying to map things out. One person's in charge of all the different things that are going wrong. You're trying to fix all the calamities. It is a blast. It's the kind of game in a convention setting it works really, really well.
Yeah.
Because you need exactly 8. Exactly 8 players is hard to come by on just a normal game night, I suppose, unless you have some kind of a meetup or something like that. So at conventions especially, if you get a chance to play this, take advantage of it. It is crazy fun.
It is crazy fun and crazy stressful, but like that fun stressful.
Because it's all in real time. You're shouting, dive, 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 turn left, turn left, turn east, or whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's really good.
No, it is left. You say left.
I do want to say that if you have gamer kids, they can play this game. So if you have kids in your life and you've been playing games with them for years on end, even though it seems like it'd be too much for them, it's actually not going to be, as long as your kids are gamer kids. They can play. So if you have a large family, you're fine. You don't need all those people.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching this installment. Make sure to stay tuned so you can see the rest of these installments as we finish this list. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye. You guys, thanks for watching our shenanigans. As always, we appreciate it. Over here, if you follow this link, you're going to find a playlist we've handcrafted just for you because you watched this video.
And if you check over here, this is a video that YouTube thinks you might like. So you can check that out if you want as well.
All right, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.